And then he looks around, he goes, and he put his finger up to do, we're going to go another round. And that second round tried to take me out. Like I barely made it out of that thing. It was a beating. I had a knot on my face that just reminded me of a cartoon that I felt like sticking 6 inches out of my face. You know what I mean? It was horrible, but I was in. I was part of it. That was it.
This is a special edition of Jim Bratton Podcast Series, Volume 2 of Locked Up.
All right, we're back with Episode 2.
All right.
Robert Serna. You're at Hondo.
Torres Unit, Hondo, Texas.
Torres Unit, Hondo, Texas. We're going to talk gang. Had you been inducted into a gang at this time yet? Loosely, you were aware?
No, loosely I was a member. So on the intake facilities, to join the gang that I was in. So I was a member of the Houston Tango Blast, which is a gang of local guys out of Houston that kind of Hispanics that band together to help each other and to make sure everybody's okay.
Houston what blast?
Houston Tango Blast.
Houston
Tango Blast.
Okay.
And the way that it was explained to me originally was that the Tango Blast or the Homeboys started as a gang called the City Boys. Okay. And they were essentially a backup gang to the Texas Syndicate. Oh. We used to refer to as crash dummies. They were the guys that when the Texas Syndicate didn't want to get their hands dirty or get trouble, they would send these guys. So we call them crash dummies. And that's how they started. At some point,
so you guys were started as sort of underlings.
Yes.
Or they do the dangerous or dirty work?
I'd say not punks, not punks. But yeah, the crash dummies. The guys that are going to go get in trouble. You're the ones that are going to, while these guys sat back and did nothing. But one day in the mid to late 90s, apparently some of the homeboys decided that, well, there's more of us than there are them. Why are we taking orders from those guys? And they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. And that's how the Tango Blast started.
So this is the gang that you were loosely associated with
at the time, before I got to my unit.
Yeah,
it was I made it very clear that I planned on what we referred to as blasting. And so when I got to my unit, I was sitting in. So when you first get to the Hondo unit, you're sitting in an outdoor sally port, which is basically just a big cage right before you walk in. And they were bringing in the field workers. And when you're medium custody, the field work is what you're going to do. That's the only job you're going to get. In medium custody, you're not going to be working in the kitchen. You're not going to be doing anything that doesn't involve manual labor.
So you're going to be doing ag work.
Exactly. We called it the hoe squad. And we honestly, a lot of times we were just out there with an Aggie cutting grass. We were picking vegetables, doing just any kind of farm work you could think. But I'm waiting here, and they're bringing by us the hoe squad. And you remember we just talked about my friend Jerry?
Yeah.
Well, guess who walks by?
Oh, really?
Jerry.
Wow.
And, so he flashes a gang sign at me.
The gang sign.
And I flash it back.
Okay.
And
explain to me what you just did.
That's please. An H. That's putting my two hands together to make an H.
Okay.
And this is really where anything like this is what signified the Houston Tango Blast. But he flashed this at me. I flashed it back. He introduced me to a couple people as they were walking by.
Yeah.
And he said, this is my homeboy from the world. This is he's a homeboy. Which essentially means I'm down.
Yeah.
So once I got into my tank, I met with the homeboys in that tank specifically, and they set up our cora check. And that's how you get inducted.
So this was wow.
So there was no intimidation factor like you see on TV where it's who are you with? What are you going to do? None of that, because I had a friend. You know what I mean? That knew who I was.
So no initiation.
No, there was. That's what I said when I got to my tank. I met the homeboys in that tank, and they set up my cora check. A cora check is a hard check. That's how you get initiated. So when I say I was loosely affiliated before, I had never had a cora check because they don't do those on intake facilities.
I don't understand what that is.
A heart check essentially is 2 or 3 guys go in the cell with you and try to beat the shit out of you until you have to fight back. You can't not fight back. You can't stop fighting back, and you can't fall down. And it lasts generally about 2 minutes. And
so you're pummeled for 2 minutes.
Yes. And one of the homeboys, we called him Louie because he would look like Louie the Lightning Bug because he was always starting shit. He told me, hey, what you do is when they close the door, throw your shirt on the bigger one and hit him when he can't see you to make sure you get some good shots in. I'm 18 years old. I'm young and strong. So all right. So I did. And those guys, man, they beat me up pretty good that day. But I mean, in that first round, but then he was so bothered by the fact that I stuck him, that I hit him as hard as I did with the shirt, that I had to go a second round. And that
This,
one,
was this immediately?
well, the day after I got there, the day after I got there.
So the day you get there.
The day I got there, we were just in the cell, but bear in mind, we're locked down for 19
Right.
hours.
So second day,
Second
you
day,
get beat up twice.
I got beat up twice within, and like no break. It was, we got done, and he looks around, he goes, and he put his finger up to do, we're going to go another round. And that second round tried to take me out. Like I barely made it out of that thing. It was a beating. I had a knot on my face that just reminded me of a cartoon that I felt like sticking 6 inches out of my face. You know what I mean? It was horrible, but I was part of it. That was it.
Now did they have weapons of any kind at that time? No, this is
They're just, hand to hand. And
had you been a fighter before?
I fought most of my young life. I was kind of known for it. I don't know that I was any better than anybody else, but I got in a lot of fights when I was young. Is, like I said, I was young and arrogant and thought I was unstoppable. So fighting was just something that came with it. But yeah, that second round was that was something.
Do you get broken? And I mean, do they bust things for you? Do you end up with loose teeth or?
No, so sometimes, not me specifically, but we had a couple homeboys that, and I always disagree with the strategy, but they'd go in and try. We call them knockout artists, and they would go into these cora checks trying to knock people's teeth out, trying to knock them out. And I would tell them, I was like, man, you're gonna hurt this guy, and then want him to have your back immediately following. I'm not saying, like, any cora check I did, I went in hardcore, but I wasn't going out of my way to knock out a tooth. You know what I mean? I wasn't going out of my way to dismember, to disfigure somebody.
This is such a fine line to use pain to establish loyalty.
Well, it wasn't even about loyalty. It was about, could you hold your own?
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't even about loyalty. The loyalty, I mean, unfortunately in prison, loyalty is easy enough to immediately gain access to because you don't have anything else to hold on to.
Okay.
But this was more, can you stand? Can you take a beating and stand? And that's what we did.
That's step one.
Step one.
Tell me what happened next.
After that, I was in, and it was, I hate to say it was great. But it was kind of great. I mean, we had the most members on the entire unit. Nobody really messed with us too much. And when they did, man, it was, we rolled over them. There wasn't really a lot of, honestly, at that point, there wasn't a lot of like outward fear. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of repressed fear, but at that point, 70% of the time we were playing dominoes and just doing what we do. I got a certificate in small engine repair. I got my GED. I took college preparatory classes, anger management classes. I did all kinds of stuff after that. But, every so often you had to put in work,
Where were you in the hierarchy, you personally?
So there was no hierarchy. And that's where our gang is a little bit different. In the Hispanic gang culture in prison when I was there was, you had famas and you had tangos. A fama, or family, is a ranked gang where you have captains and sergeants and lieutenants and all that. In a tango, everybody has an equal vote, and you have a cia and a segundo. The cia means seat,
Right.
The head guy, and the second. But those guys don't have power; they just speak.
But you've got a flat organization.
Flat organization, which also made it very, very difficult to keep under control. A lot of infighting, a lot of 2 or 3 guys that would pressure a bunch of the other guys to vote their way. A lot of politics. You know what I mean?
Okay, vote. So tell me, what kinds of things would you vote on?
If one of the homeboys did something wrong, we would vote on how he was to be disciplined. In prison, if Jim was a member of this gang, and I'm a member of this gang, and I disrespect Jim. Jim comes to my people and says, "Hey, I've been disrespected. Do y'all want to handle it, or do I handle it?" And that's the kind of stuff we voted on.
Okay. Somebody who's disrespected.
And I hate that word, disrespect.
Well, but what are the ramifications from that for the disrespector?
It really depends on what was done and what the homeboys decide. We used to do something called a disciplina, which was a discipline essentially to the same tune of a cora check. 2 or 3 guys go into the cell, and those were harder. Those were, you're going in there trying to
Because this is somebody.
Because you need to be punished and it wasn't just about him being disrespecting someone else. Also about that now we're in the mix. You can't just go out and disrespect somebody else that could potentially come back to the clique. You know what I mean? And so the 9 out of 10 times when we voted on something, it was a discipline. That's what we needed to do. And like I said, those were significantly harder than a quota check. And I hated doing those. God, I hated them.
But you did.
I did. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the job. I hate to say part of the job. That's a terrible way to describe it.
Well, no, but
But it's part of what you signed up for.
Interesting. Meantime, your outdoor time is what? Doing ag work.
No, while I was in close custody, I only spent 6 months. I mean, in medium custody, I only spent 6 months. After that, I was moved over to what they call general population, and that's when I started going to school. That's when I started.
Oh, that's when you began all.
That's when I
Okay.
began all the other stuff. Yeah.
How realistic are they? Do we need to cover anything else on before you get to general population here?
No.
Any other specific experiences that you want to share that I would have no idea about?
No, I mean, I think the biggest misconception about at least the gang culture when I was in prison and also just the prison culture, you watch all these movies where, all these guys are straight criminals making mastermind plans for outside of this prison and
Yeah.
inside. That's not the way it works at all. It's not even close. Honestly, like I said, 70% of the time we were sitting around playing dominoes. I used to make New Year's hats to celebrate New Year's. I mean, 70% of the time we were just hanging out, and 80% of the homeboys were not mastermind criminals. They were just guys just throwing their time like I was. Everybody was just trying to go home. And I feel like that's one of the biggest misconceptions about prison and prison gang life is that it's just a bunch of just the worst of the worst. And realistically, there was a bunch of guys a lot of them that just made mistakes. You know what I mean?
So you're talking like sort of mediocre criminals?
No, just like me. I wasn't a bad person. I did something I shouldn't have done, and it cost me 3 years of my life. But I wasn't. I mean, hell, half of them looked like me. Didn't have tattoos all over their faces. Didn't have, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah. For our listeners, I don't even know if you've got any.
I do. I had something called a stampa. I had a mark from the gang that I covered up a few years ago, just because that does not represent me any longer. But like I said, it's a huge misconception in my eyes that there's just, a lot of people tend to take the humanity out of prisoners specifically, and prisoners that are in gang members. And that's the biggest thing that you probably wouldn't have any idea is that most of us were just guys trying to get home. You know what I mean? It wasn't an issue of, man, I want to be the baddest criminal around. It was like, I have to get through today because tomorrow's one day closer to coming home.
We're gangs, support groups,
Yeah.
in so many words.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. To a degree. I mean, I don't associate with anybody that was in my gang any longer, except for one individual who I reconnected with a couple years ago, and he is out living his life. He found Christianity a couple years ago.
Yeah.
10 or so years after he got out, and he's been incredibly successful in life. And he's about the only one, but he's what I call a case in point that a lot of us were just guys trying to go home.
Before you covered over your gang tattoo, would people pick it off?
No, mine was pretty discreet. You had to really know what it was.
Okay.
I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And that's why I covered it. It just, like I said, at that point, it no longer represented me in any shape or form. But that was also a hard thing for me to do. I'm not going to lie. I cried a little bit when I covered it up because I believe I lost a part of my soul in prison earning that tattoo. And so covering it up was almost like giving up was nullifying what I lost to get it.
You have a lot of introspect. Did you find others were as deep as you were in their thoughts?
A few. My friend that I'm telling you about, I don't want to use his nickname.
No, right, that's okay.
But him, and there was a lot of guys that really, like I said, that genuinely felt bad about how it ended up. They had kids that they missed every day. I mean, these were just normal people, and they made a mistake. And yes, they deserved to get what the punishment they got, but they were human beings. And I feel like that's the biggest misconception when it comes to prison and prison gang life is that it's just a bunch of hardcore criminals that don't give a shit about anything or anybody. And that is just not the case. It's not even close, in fact.
It's the gangs are a method of survival, aren't they?
I
Or
would
am I missing it? That
I don't think that's accurate. I chose to be in a gang, and most of the guys that we were with chose to be in a gang. There were plenty of guys that didn't, and they got by fine.
that was the next question.
Yeah, they got by fine.
How many when you were in the general population? How many members of your gang were there? Probably.
So on the Houston side, there was probably about 200 members of an 800-man unit. Total of the four cities, the four horsemen, which is Houston, ATX, Dallas, and Fort Worth, and we also had a West Texas Thongo at the time as well. We probably had about 450.
How much rivalry between the various geographic gangs?
As far as, oh no, anybody that was Thongo was with us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is they were like subchapters or
yes,
different chapters?
exactly. Thongo Blast was the whole. You had Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, West Texas.
Yeah.
So there was really no rivalry there. A homeboy, if you were from Dallas and I was from Houston, if we were both Thongo Blast, we were homeboys, and neither one of us, my friend that I'm telling you about, he was from Dallas, and
Okay.
he was. If I could have a best friend in the system, it was him. And there was nothing but love there. As far as rivalries amongst other gangs, we didn't suffer too many rivalries because, again, we had most of the.
Well, I was going to say, it's hard to have rivals when you control the. I don't want to use all the television term when you control the turf.
We didn't control anything. We just had more people, so it was a lot easier for us to kind of just do our thing without being bothered by others. You know what I mean? Honestly, most of the stuff that I dealt with was racial. And when it comes to racial issues, the gangs were irrelevant. It didn't matter. Like, Jim, you're white, I'm Mexican. At the end of the day, if another Mexican gang member is getting beat up by your people, I am obligated to step in.
Understood.
And at the end of the day, race trumped everything else. Even the gangs that we didn't like, that hated our guts, if they were Hispanic and they needed backup in that moment, we were required to jump in. But that's also stuff we'd vote on. Are we going to back these guys up when they go after these guys? It's, like I said, it was a lot of politic.
This, again, is just incredibly interesting to me. I think we're going to begin to wrap up this episode. Next time, maybe we can talk about the politics.
We can, absolutely.
And the skills that you may have acquired besides the obvious learning skills,
Sure.
The welding, the GED, all that.
People skills.
The people skills, and I'm going to say the management skills.
I don't know that I ever managed anybody, but I understand the concept. Yeah.
I mean, because now you're a successful own your own business. So, Robert Serna, once again, thank you for your time and your insight. Next time, gangs, politics, learning.
Let's do it.
Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Jim Bratton Podcast. We hope you have enjoyed, been inspired, informed, angered, or otherwise emotionally stimulated. This is your booth announcer, Sierra Saquel.